Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we are diving into something that literally governs almost every single aspect of our modern lives. I'm talking about data. But actually, scratch that. We're looking at something much more specific. We're going to explore the incredible journey that takes us from a chaotic, completely overwhelming avalanche of raw information all the way to structured, actionable wisdom.
I mean, just look around you. We live in a world that is overflowing with data. Every link you click, every purchase you make, every environmental sensor out there on the street, it is all just generating numbers. But ask yourself this, how do those raw numbers actually become wisdom? How do we take this massive, unorganized pile of statistics and observations and turn it into something we can genuinely use to make the world better? Well, that is the exact process of data interpretation we're going to unpack today.
To cross this conceptual bridge, we'll follow 4 distinct steps. First, gathering the raw materials. Second, organizing and classifying data. Third, visualizing patterns and trends. And finally, moving from data to wisdom.
Okay, let's dive into this. Step 1, gathering the raw materials. The foundation of our bridge starts right here, and it relies on 2 totally distinct types of sources. On one hand, you have primary data. This is your ground-level effort, designing surveys, running controlled experiments, or doing one-on-one interviews to capture bespoke insights. It's direct. Secondary sources, on the other hand, leverage pre-existing architectures. This is where you're mining government census reports or sprawling digital repositories to find signals and data that someone else has already collected.
And how do we actually get all this stuff? Well, it happens on a massive spectrum. We definitely still rely on targeted questionnaires and administrative records, sure. But modern acquisition? It's completely defined by scale. Global networks of IoT sensors and massive big data platforms are out there autonomously harvesting raw information in real time. It's a continuous, overwhelming stream of digital material.
Let's move to the next phase and see how this builds. Step 2, organizing and classifying data.
Now, what's really interesting about this step is that it brings us to the first huge fork in the road for our data architecture. We absolutely have to separate qualitative data, the descriptive contextual narratives that tell us the why, from quantitative data, which are the strict measurable numbers that tell us the how much. Mixing these two up without a really clear strategy, that literally pollutes the entire pipeline. From there, further organization acts as the mathematical scaffolding for our bridge. We categorize by time, deciding if we are looking at a cross-sectional snapshot right now, or if we're tracking longitudinal changes over decades. We also have to lock in the measurement scales, classifying our data into nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio bounds. Doing this ensures our raw materials are mathematically sound before the analysis even begins.
All right, moving on to step 3, visualizing patterns and trends. This is where things start to get really cool.
Because here is the reality. Even perfectly structured data is ultimately just an impenetrable wall of numbers to the human eye. To reveal the relationships hidden inside all those spreadsheets, interpretation relies on applying advanced statistical techniques and graphical mapping. Basically, we're translating cold, hard numbers into visual trends our brains can decode almost instantly.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. Consider pollution's impact on respiratory health. By visualizing the data, we can take thousands of disparate, super complex medical records and environmental readings and just compress them into one undeniable trend. Plotting out low, medium, and high pollution areas makes the otherwise invisible correlation between pollution levels and disease totally obvious.
The exact same principle cuts through complex macroeconomic data, too. By visualizing the economy proportionally, we can immediately contrast thriving, high-growth sectors with areas of stark inequality. Without visualization, those disparities just get lost in the noise. With it, the narrative jumps right out at you.
Which brings us to our ultimate destination. Step 4, moving from data to wisdom.
So, looking at the complete pipeline, the logic here is super clear, right? We acquire the data, we classify the information, we visualize the trends, and finally, we convert it. Every single phase is a strict dependency for the next one. Skip a step, and your insights fall apart. But execute the whole process properly, you guarantee that your strategies are rooted in actual evidence, not just intuition.
Because actionable knowledge is the entire point of this whole shebang. It represents the meaningful conclusions we pull from interpreted data. We aren't doing all this just to make pretty charts. We are generating the insights that empower governments to draft smarter policies, researchers to target cures, and leaders to make really high-stakes, measurable decisions.
So, the crucial point is perfectly captured in a quote directly from our source material. Data interpretation is the bridge between information and insight. That is the transformation. It's the critical leap that takes raw, static information and brings it to life as dynamic, living wisdom.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. Every single day, through your phone, your purchases, your commute, you are acting as a primary and secondary source of raw material. So how is the data you generate every day being interpreted to shape your world? Next time you see a brand new evidence-based policy or a major scientific breakthrough, remember the bridge that data had to cross to get there. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the data around you.